everybody. My name is Emily, and we have Mel Hogan here joining us. Welcome to our webinar today, AI Prototypes That Win Stakeholders. We are really excited to have you all here. We're going to get formally started in just a minute. Before we do, I want to just quickly go over a couple of housekeeping things about Livestorm so that you're familiar with how the platform works. Excuse me, getting over being sick. On the right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see there's a chat icon. In the chat, we try not to put too many questions and things like that because it's very easy for them to get lost. You're welcome to say hi. You can share where you're tuning in from if you'd like. But if you have questions, what I would ask you all to do is right next to the chat tab, you'll see there's a little button that says questions. If you click on that, there should be a button that says ask a new question, and you can put all of your questions over there. At the end of the presentation, Mel is going to be taking some Q&A, so we'll definitely get to those questions too. And then last but not least, if you do need to leave at any point in time, you will be receiving a recording after the session, so you can always reference it later. And we do have some options in terms of how to view things. Like if you can X out the chat if it's taking up too much of the screen space or if you find it distracting. If you click on display, you'll see there's some full screen options. So just so everyone knows, kind of how to use Livestorm if you've never been in it, not a problem at all. Cool. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Mel Hogan. Mel designs digital products and is a senior UX consultant based in Kansas City, Missouri. He's a lifelong student of design, having graduated from the Kansas City Art Institute with a degree in design, and has since spent 20 years in advertising, web, graphic, UI, and UX design. He's also dabbled in comic book illustration and writing and loves mentoring designers at all levels, which is something that I know personally because Mel is a wonderful mentor here at Design Lab for us. So just how the presentation is going to run, in just a second, I'm going to hand over to Mel. He is going to go through his presentation. Once he's done, he's going to hand back over to me. I'm just going to tell you all a little bit about Design Lab, some courses that we have, and also share a fun little discount link for anyone who attends today. And then we are going to handle it back over to Mel, and he can jump into the Q&A. All right, cool. And if anyone has any technical difficulties, feel free to post it in the chat. I'll be monitoring it as we go through. All right, Mel, I'm going to hand over to you.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. If not, just put it in the chat. I'm watching it very closely to see if I can be heard. So, hi, everyone from everywhere. A lot of people participating today. I'm going to do a quick share of a presentation. We're not going to spend a lot of time in the presentation itself. We're going to jump right into Figma and Lovable because that's what I know everyone is here for. So let's get the screen sharing going. And let's make sure we share the correct screen. Here we go, because we all have problems with those all the time. All right. Tall order, AI prototypes that win stakeholders. But, I've got some hands-on experience with this, and it's true. That QR code will take you to my personal website if you want to learn a little bit more about me. And that's about it on this slide. So we'll move forward. So that's me with a different hairstyle and a slightly different beard. And yeah, like Emily Ann said, been doing this for 20 plus years. I am all in on AI and AI tools. I just think it's important to make friends with our future overlords early on so that I'm not at risk of being taken out by them at any point. I'm a 4-year veteran from the United States Army. I was in the Army in Germany for 4 years during the Cold War. Feel free to ask anything you want to know about that in the chat or ping me later. Huge comic book fan. That is a painting of Spider-Man behind me. This is my home office that you're peering into. This is not a green screen graphics. That's the real thing. So what are we going to do today? Well, today we're going to start from a very, very, very ridiculously simple Figma wireframe, and we're going to turn it into an app that allows us to browse movies from one of the most famous anime directors of all time, see their Rotten Tomato ratings, and see up close and personal some of the posters for those movies. That app came to me the idea for that came to me for a variety of reasons, largely because of ChatGPT making Studio Ghibli portraits ubiquitous. So I wanted to kind of reference that a little bit on the nose. And then if there's time, after we do the initial prototype in ChatGPT or in Lovable, we'll hop into Figma Make, and I'll show you how we can use the exact same prompts in Figma Make to make almost the exact same thing. So, and that reminded me to open my Notion file for that. So give me just a second. Where are you? All right. Now I've got my prompts all set up. Back to it. All right. So next, we're not 2 questions yet. So let's jump into Figma and Lovable. We'll jump into Figma first. Mel put Figma on screen. Where is Figma? All right, Figma decided it was going to, oh, we were already in Figma. See, that's the problem with having too many tools under one app. All right, so this is the prototype / wireframe we're gonna start with. Not much there, right? Pretty simple, pretty basic. So now let's just take this. We're gonna use the builder.io plugin to move this over into Lovable, which is a really simple process. So we'll just command /, we'll go builder.io, tap that, and then we'll do export design. Oh, one thing before we do this, I want to go back one step. Sorry, I wanted to show you guys this in Builder. So see, it says export design. There's a couple ways you can do that from Builder. If you're like me and you want it to keep all of your measurements and everything, you can go to precise mode, which I like because when you don't do that, Builder tries to guesstimate what your responsive design is going to be. And being a designer and a bit of a perfectionist, I know why I designed what I designed, how I designed it, so I don't want Builder to interpret that for me. So because of that, I go to precise. The one caveat when using precise is your auto layout settings have to be completely buttoned up, otherwise Builder will get it wrong. So now that we've done that, let's export the design. Cool. Now we're going to open it in Lovable. So Lovable is going to do its thing for a second. Depending on how fast it's working today, we shouldn't spend too much time on these spinners. But while it's doing that, so you don't have to watch spinners, we'll hop on over to Lovable real quick. Which, where is Lovable? Oh, it's in the same frame as the presentation. So let's get it out of there. Move it down here. Give us a full screen. And then we'll move back over to the old presentation. Sorry, guys, you know how it is whenever you're doing meetings, right? Okay, yes. All right, so can everyone see Lovable on my screen? I've got this reduced view. There we go. Good, good, good. We'll just assume you guys can see it. So this is the Lovable interface, if you've ever seen it. This less than a minute ago is what we just exported, so that's great. Before we jump into actually building that, let me show you what the final is going to look like. Should I do that? No, let's do it and see how close it gets. That's one of the things when you're working in Lovable or AI apps, you have to massage your prompts a little bit over time to get it to do what you want it to do. So the prompts I'm using, I'd say I'd spend probably an hour organizing those prompts to ensure that they were going to work. So let's see if they're still going to work. So we'll open this most recent project in Lovable. See, I've got my search movies. I've got one Studio Ghibli movie in there. Cool. So we've got the basis for this. So let's jump into our prompts, which I will move to this screen so you guys can see it. So these are our prompts. So the first prompt, I just wanted to clean up some stuff that it added that I didn't ask it to, right? You might notice I have a couple misspellings in here. That's by design because AI can pick up misspellings and usually correct them for you. So I just wanted to show you guys you don't have to be super grammatical when you're using it. If you misspell something simple as paginate, it'll figure it out. The other thing is when I'm designing prototypes and mocks, there's a ton of open source databases and APIs you can access to pull information from that are free and don't require an API fee. One of them is the Ghibli app. So I use that for my movies. So we'll copy this prompt. We'll go back to Lovable and we'll paste this prompt in. And we'll let Lovable start doing working its magic. And while Lovable's doing that, we'll hop over to another window with Lovable in it, and we'll look at a variation that we made previously so that you guys can kind of see what to expect as we go through it. But what's fun is you can have multiple windows rendering. I don't know what the exact term is in AI. You can have Lovable working on multiple comps at the same time. The benefit of this is like when you want to ideate a layout or a prototype, you can ideate in multiple windows. You can, we won't get into the water usage or the electricity usage because I'd shut this entire conversation down right now if I thought about that too much. So with that, you can do multiple Lovable windows at the same time and have them working on the same idea. And, I heard Rid from Dive.club, which is a podcast everyone on this call should be listening to if you're not, talk about what design is becoming with AI. And one of the things he brought up that was interesting is it's no longer about designing or creating the design. It's more about finding the design. So you're kind of seeing what AI comes up with, and it can generate ideas, especially because it's pulling from all of the design patterns that have ever been made on the web, basically. It can come up with ideas and functionality that may not have occurred to you, and you can incorporate that into your design. So it's almost like having your own design team built in to help point out things that are related or adjacent to the functionality that you prompted, but maybe didn't think of, which I find to be incredibly powerful. All right, so this is the first version of our Ghibli movie explorer that Lovable made for us. So let's go through and just look at that. Looking pretty good. We got our posters. It did something different on this one than it did on my original, which it gave me the full poster proportionately in each of these cards, which I think is pretty slick. It also shows me where it's available. I didn't ask it to add these icons. They're still pretty sweet, but they're there. And up here in Lovable, you can show a mobile preview. You can show, so you've got a nice mobile and responsive design already up and running just with one prompt with a few bullet points, right? So pretty powerful stuff when you think about prototypes. All right, so let's go back to my prompts and let's continue to refine this. So now I want to add favorites so that I can say, hey, this is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. And full disclosure, prior to the Ghibli conflict, I was not a big fan of Ghibli. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't know much about it. And so by doing this project, I've actually decided I'm going to go through and watch all the movies. So if anybody has a recommendation of what order I should watch them in, I'd be more than willing to accept that help. So we're going to add a heart. When it's selected, we're going to add it to a favorite list. We're going to get rid of the search field because we really don't want that. We decided. And we're going to add a button that allows us to view the things we favorited. We're going to do this prompt a little bit differently, though, is by clicking this chat button in Lovable. What I love, and I'll say that regardless of the name of it 100 times, I love all of the stuff about Lovable. What I love about the chat feature is it will give you a preview of how Lovable is thinking about doing it prior to it doing it. So you can read through and go, not quite, try again. So let's look at what happens when I do the chat. So I have the chat active, I'll hit enter. And then Lovable will do its wonderful little working thing here. Hopefully I won't have to fill too much space. All right, so now it's telling me it's planned, right? So let's see. Yeah, I'll help you plan. So it's going through and it's looking at the application structure. It's just making sure that it knows what it's doing before it jumps in and starts making changes. Unlike, overzealous designers like myself, where I jump in and start making changes, and then after the fact, I start realizing, oh, I probably should have looked at the documentation for this a little bit better before I started designing. So Lovable's picking up that slack for you. All right, now let's look at the dialog and sheet components we'll need for the modal, as well as check for any heart icons available in Lucid, which are the icons that are built into Lovable. So now it gives me my whole plan. It's almost like a BRD, a business requirements document for building this app, right? So it's going through and it's writing all of this out. I find this to be so incredibly cool that it's doing this, because it shows me like kind of different ways I could have thought about it when I was in the early stages of the design. And then down here it gives me this button, implement the plan. All right, Lovable, let's implement the plan. So now it's implementing the plan. I never trust that it's actually doing anything until I get beyond this working dialogue or message here and stuff starts happening here. All right, there we go. Now it's saying I'm going to implement it. While it's doing that, I'll show you a couple of the other features in Lovable that I really enjoy. One is the history. Oh, I don't know when they implemented this, but it's been fairly recently. So we're going to click on that and it'll show you what I've done in this app so far. And you can revert back to one of these previous versions very easily just by clicking one of these. All right. So it's still writing. Another is if you want to preview it in a new tab, pretty obvious. You just click that arrow, and then you get the full screen view of it. Pretty nifty, right? You can hide your sidebar. Obviously, you can refresh. This is your direct link to Supabase. If you want to link one of your projects to Supabase because you intend on hosting it live at some point, you can go right into Supabase. The integration between the two is really smooth. And you can take it right into GitHub as a project and work on it in GitHub if you're that into the development side of things, which I'm definitely becoming more and more that into the development side of things, just because it helps me understand how to be better at prompting when I'm prompting Lovable. All right, wait for it. And here we go. Now we've got our hearts for our favorites. And see what happens up here? It's telling me how many favorites. I didn't ask it to tell me the favorite count. I didn't ask it to put the icon in the button. It just assumed those things, right? So now I can view my favorites. And there's my favorites. Pretty sweet, right? I love this. And you can remove favorites from the favorite window. Another thing I did not ask it to do. And then it tells me I haven't added any favorites. Didn't ask it to do all this. Just dropped it in. Thank you, Lovable. Love it. So there's our favorites functionality just like that, right? So much easier to share that with a potential stakeholder rather than talking them through. I was talking to someone about creating prototypes of something as simple as a drop-down interface element and how many Figma screens it takes to just explain how that could work within Figma. So you've got the initial state, you've got the hover state, you've got the active state, you've got the hover state on the selected element. You might have a focus state that you have to think about. So what is that? That's at least 6 to 7 frames in Figma right there, and none of it's interactive unless you connect the little, spider webs between them. That's a lot of work that just got done in seconds here, right? And this is a lot more familiar and easy. And look at our beautiful pagination here. Didn't ask it to add next and previous buttons. It just understood that pagination should include those. All right. So let's hop on to our own other prompt. Now, on one of my early versions on the mobile cards, it wasn't being nice to me. And it had these aligned like horizontally. And I said, oh, I would really like it if those were aligned up at the top. But this one went ahead and made that assumption on mobile, so I don't have to use that prompt that I had to use before. It just assumed, hey, it's mobile, it should be vertical, so good assumption on Lovable's part. So we don't have to fix that. But we want to see our posters up close and personal, right? We want to see a big version. So let's add a zoom functionality to our posters. So again, yet another prompt. I'm going to skip chat this time because I just wanted to show you guys how it worked. And I kind of trust Lovable to do this right. Kind of. We've done it a few times together, so it's built a level of trust with me. So I'll implement the zoom icon on hover for poster images and create a modal for viewing the full poster. It kind of can go off the rails at this point where it's like, I don't know that you gave me enough information of how you want to view the poster or what the proportions of the poster are, or et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes you have to go in and fix it, but I've got those prompts locked and loaded and ready to go if it does goof it up. So other features in Lovable I haven't covered, not much. If we have time between this and the Figma Make demo, I will show you guys what Lovable can do with simply copying and pasting an image too, which is pretty amazing if you haven't played with it. So I'll give you my my AI sales job for designers right now. If you are not investigating these tools, which obviously you are if you're listening to this call or if you're viewing this. But if you have not done a deep dive, call back to Dive Club, into AI tools yet, definitely do it. I'm not saying it's a threat to your job, but it's going to make your job so much easier, and it is going to make you more creative because the basis of creativity is asking the right questions. And AI is still stupid enough that it's not going to answer questions that are too vague. So you're just going to become better at asking questions. You're going to become better at being inquisitive, and it's just going to allow you to use these tools to even more of their and your potential. So do jump into AI. Okay. So it's telling me it's done just that quick. So I missed the part where it was done because I was talking. So let's see how I did it. Okay. Nice little zoom icon. Digging it. Let's see how our zoom is working. Look at that. Nifty. So, and yeah, so that's working. So let's see if it did it right on mobile now. See, I knew it was going to do that. It did that a couple times before. So let's go to our prompt for that. Did that, did that. All right, so that one I hadn't had a previously prepared prompt for. Not a big deal. We'll just say fix the mobile poster zoom so it takes up the available width in the viewport. Let's see if what it'll do with that. It'll probably take it edge to edge, is my guess. Or it might give us a zoom icon that goes the entire width of the viewport, right? Because I was a little indefinite with what I told it there. So it might do that developer thing where, you know, I didn't give you the wrong answer, you asked the wrong question kind of thing. So let's see if it's a developer that we like or a developer that we have to handhold here. If there's any developers on the call, no offense, I'm just being silly. So, all right, so let's see what goes on. Now what do you do? Hey, the modal has been updated. Nope. No, it hasn't. It's doing that. Let's get out of the poster. Go back. And sometimes it won't refresh itself, so it's always a good idea to refresh and make sure you're getting the latest version of the code. Let's see, it's not doing that. So, yeah, that's not great. So let's tell it again and see what happens. Okay, make the poster modal with 100 of the available mobile. Resize the poster image to proportionate. That's a tough one. So now let's see what it does. It's working, it's thinking. While we're waiting for it to think, I'm going to preview some of the questions. Fun. Undo step? Oh yeah, that's a great question. These are going to be fun. Can Lovable reference other components? Another great question. Come on, buddy. Well, let's look at our favorites again. We don't have any favorites. Let's add some favorites. Oh, that's still functioning. It's also a good idea to kind of play with things after you've made a few updates to make sure it didn't like unintentionally break something. So here we go. Okay, so it's telling me the mobile's done. So let's go back to that view. Let's get out of here. Good deal. It could use a little padding on the right, but overall it got it right. So let's see if I have a prompt to fix the padding. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to jump to our tomato rating because we're a half an hour in and I want to make sure we get everything in. Okay, so this is the tomato rating prompt. So we're going to add a little drop down that allows us to see what the Rotten Tomato ratings are for each of the films. We're also going to assign a tomato to a range. And then all this gobbledygook is just the SVG code for our tomato icon. So you can paste SVG code directly into Lovable and it will understand it. So this one, long prompt. And I just grabbed this SVG code off of, while that's happening, another tool for you guys to check out that I'll tell you about while this is doing its thing is if you haven't tried Raycast.ai, you definitely should try that as well. It's basically a shortcut to everything on your Mac, so you can hit Option and Spacebar. Here's Raycast. It's like $10 a month, which to me is worth it. And then I can come in here, and if I'm looking for an icon, I can just type search all icons. It's got a million icon libraries in it. In this case, I did tomato to find a tomato I liked, right? So we'll scroll any of these tomatoes, and then if I say I like this one, I can select it, and then I can paste the SVG string. I can also look at my other actions. I could just copy the SVG, which is what I did here. You can paste the SVG file into something an app you're currently working in. So all these options, all icons, so easy. It also allows you to do that with emojis, which is cool. Also allows you to, it's got a built-in OCR, which is really cool when you're working on something and you got to copy and paste text. So let's see, that's taking its time. So we'll just let it do its thing. While that's happening, I'll go ahead and fire up my Figma make file. So we're ready to do that. That's going to be, come on, buddy, different account. And there we go. You guys can't see that yet, so I'm going to hide it from you again. Let's go back to Lovable. Yeah, it's taking a little time on that one. So it didn't take this much time last time, but this is what it will end up looking like, which I really dug. Another thing you might notice is on this version, Lovable added the directors and the date. And I really dug that, but it didn't add it in this version. Okay, so see, it added it. It's not gorgeous, but it does the trick in this version. So now it added the director after the fact, so that's kind of fun. But these are all the ones that are 80 to 100%, which is quite a few, because it even had to paginate. So those are all 80 to 100%. So Studio Ghibli obviously has done a lot of things right, which makes it that much more of a disservice that AI just stole their style. So let's go back to our prompts real quick. And that is the last of our prompts. And we are firmly at a half an hour, which is great because that gives me time to jump into a couple other tools. All right, so that is our Studio Ghibli movie browser app in Lovable. Fairly simple, not too difficult. You get slightly different results every time you do it, but like I said, if you just embrace that and don't worry too much about it, you can come up with some pretty cool stuff. So like say for example, I was on my main one and let's go all ratings. And instead of having this background around my cards, I just wanted individual cards. Well, I could just come in here and say, make each movie card an individual card with its own drop shadow and remove the movie card container. And we'll let that cook. And while that's cooking, we'll go to another Lovable instance. And I'll show you guys what a screenshot can do for you. So let's grab something from Mobbin. Let's go to the iOS version. Oh, they took Android off. Interesting. Let's grab something simple. So we don't want to get, well, you know what? Let's see. Let's test the bounds of this. So we're going to copy this guy. And then we're going to come back to Lovable. And we're just going to say paste. And I'm not going to tell it to do anything. I'm just going to let it do that and hit enter. Won't let me do it. Okay, I'll just say make this. And then it'll start cooking. So we'll let that cook. We'll go back and see if it's fixed my cards yet. Didn't quite understand it. See what it did? It made everything one giant card and removed the borders around everything. So there was the undo question. So that's what history's for, right? So it did that. It did that. So it's not recording. Is that the right one? I might have gotten myself lost here. Okay, there we go. We'll close that extra. All right, see, it made one movie card. So is that right? It almost did it. So let's see, adjust the margin. Actually, here's another thing that I haven't shown you guys. The edit function. So let's click edit. Let's grab one of our cards. Make sure we grab the entire thing. So we'll grab that. We'll make sure we've got the parent. Parent. Okay. So that's got a shadow. So it's doing its thing. Okay, so that might be it. So let's go. Let's add a margin to the top and bottom and see what we get. There we go. Now we've got a margin between these, just like that. Nice little visual editing thing. And this is something that's unique to Lovable. I haven't seen another, like, I don't know that bolt.new or vo.dev allow you to do this level of visual editing on things. So we'll save that. It's a little faster than prompting. We'll save that so it can apply that change. So that change is applied. And now let's say we want a more fun font for these headings, right? So we're going to pick the world's greatest font. But I want to kind of have AI tell me, suggest a font, right? So we're going to have it suggest a font for H3. So let's say make the font more fun. We'll just be real indefinite about that. Let it do its thing. Okay, while that's doing it, let's see what it did with our Mobbin layout. So it did this, right? Not wonderful, but that's quite a lot of stuff from a screenshot, right? It doesn't have all the images, but let's go back to where we started. We started here, and it gave us this, which is a good place to start from, right? And it also added this queue and curate it by Mobbin as part of it. And we can take that out, but we're not going to. All right, so look at this. It changed the color on them. That's its idea of more fun. Okay, we'll allow it. But that's one of the cool things about the edit feature is you can go in here and you can grab anything in the interface and make changes to it on the fly. So if I decided I didn't like, okay, so I didn't like the icon on these guys, I could say remove icon. And it's just going to remove icon on these, on this span. It's still working on removing the icon. So let's see what it does. Let's see if I might not have had the right thing grabbed either. I wonder if I could just edit it and grab the icon itself. Nope. Huh. All right. So there's a div hiding in there. That's the problem. Okay. All right. So you'd have to dig a little bit there. So that's where you just want to go and say, you know, at the top level, just remove the icons on the available on elements on the page, because I couldn't quite grab the icon there. But you learn how to do that as you move through it. All right, let's check the time. 12:36. All right, so enough Lovable stuff for now. Now let's see what Figma Make can do with the same prompts. So we're going to come here. We're going to go Make. Here's the Make interface. We're going to use the exact same prompts that we use in Lovable. Let's go. Where's that guy? So let's start here. That's that. So let's start with that Figma frame that we started with. So we'll copy this. You can copy a Figma frame, then you can paste it right here. We'll just say make it. And it'll think about it. It assumed it was a podcast. I don't know if you guys saw this it's thinking it's a podcast interface. So it made some kind of assumption based on what I pasted in. And what I'm wondering is, did I accidentally paste in the Mobbin image? And I think I did, so I'm going to stop this. Yep, that's exactly what I did. So let's delete that. Let's go to this guy. Let's paste that in. All right. We'll let it do its thing, and I'll keep an eye on time. And when we get to about, I'd say 12:40, if this takes beyond 12:45, then I'll just show you guys what Figma came up with, because I was really impressed. It's probably the best visual representation of what I wanted. Like, Figma did the best on the visuals, and I think a lot of that is because Make is based, it uses the Claude AI engine, which to me is one of the best ones out there. The team at Claude is doing a fantastic job with that engine. So we'll see where it gets to. Hello world. Okay, see, nobody asked it to do that. So, but it's pretty, right? So let's go ahead and hop ahead to what it made and what it got right when I did all the prompts. So this is Figma Make's version of the Ghibli interface. So I thought this was awesome. It's having a little bit of a challenge grabbing the images here. So it's got an error. So let's do this. So let's fix it. Another thing I noticed, so look at that. Like my hover state on these, I didn't ask it to do that, but it added that nice little drop shadow on hover. If I do my favorites are right over my image, which, you know, you can move those, and I can come up here and I can view my favorites. Nice big window in my favorites. Poster, nice big poster. So I think Make did a great job. And as far as aesthetically goes, I think it kind of kicked Lovable's butt on aesthetics, because it added this color coding to the little available on chips, which I thought was really nice. It did this, which I think is gorgeous, on the ratings. And then you get these little guys in the upper corner. So it really seemed to have understood the assignment a lot better than Lovable did. And then if you want to jump into the code, you can jump into the code right there. All right, so let's see how it's doing on our podcast app. It's done that. Yeah. All right. So I think I'm going to hand this back to Emily for her design lab spiel, and then we'll come back and I'll take some questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mel. Cool. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I don't want to take too much time away from the presentation. However, I do want to let everyone know that we have a variety of courses at Design Lab across different topics within UX. One of our newest courses, AI for UX design, doesn't focus so much on the stuff that Mel is talking about, more UI related, which, you know, we actually do have something potentially coming down the pipeline very soon related to AI and UI. So definitely stay tuned for that. But one of our newest courses, AI for UX design, is all about how to use AI in really meaningful ways in your UX design process, building it into your workflows, understanding, you know, when's best to use AI and when's not, and really gaining some mastery of those tools. We also have a variety of courses around learning advanced Figma functionalities. I think Mel is involved in that course pretty heavily as a mentor. We have a prototyping in Figma course. We have an AI for visual design course, which is great for folks that are looking more to just bolster their understanding of how to work with, you know, different visual elements and producing them with AI. So lots of great stuff. You can check them all out at our courses page right there. And then for everyone who is participating today, if you use the code EVENT100 at checkout, you will get $100 off the course of your choice. So just wanted to share that with y'all and also give you an opportunity to connect with us if you'd like. You'll certainly be hearing from us after the event, but we also have an admissions email. I'm part of the admissions team along with my other wonderful colleagues, Rudy and Bobby. If you have questions about any of our programs, how to get involved, which course might be suitable for for you, we would definitely love to speak with you. So that's just my little quick design lab spiel, not taking too long. Just want to give you a little bit of info about our courses. Really quickly, I will share that AI for UX design course. This is an AI focused session, so I'm sure that's an area of interest for many of us here, as well as our AI for visual design course. And yeah, seriously, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to hear from you. All right, Mel, I'll send it back over to you. And as a reminder, I'll just share that code one more time. It is event100. You'll just enter it at checkout if you do choose to move forward with a course, and your $100 off will be automatically applied. All right, cool. Let's get into some questions.
Cool. I'm going to take these I'm going to answer them by the number of upvotes. And of course, little known secret, Jacob McDaniel, who has the most upvoted question, good for you, Jacob, is also a very good friend of mine. We've worked together numerous times in the past, so I would expect him to ask one of the most upvoted questions. So what made me choose Lovable over Bolt, over Cursor, etc.? For me personally, Lovable addressed, it was more intuitive for me, and I knew from listening to it and hearing about it on Rid's podcast, on the Dive Club podcast, that it was very designer centric. And one of their focuses was aiming it towards designers to a certain extent. So they're going to, at this point, I think they're a little bit ahead of the others when it comes to pixel perfection and what it creates. And so it was really the designer in me that made me choose Lovable over the others. I've played with Bolt, I've played with Cursor. Of course, in the AI world, saying I've played with those, if you played with it 2 weeks ago, you haven't played with it, right? Because it's changed. So it may be that I eventually end up using Bolt or Cursor or any combination of those. But Lovable was the most mature one from a design perspective for me personally. Now, obviously, it's at this point with AI tools, it's a subjective choice more than it is anything else. All right, so back to the upvotes. The next question is from Michael Bartucha. I hope I pronounced that. Somebody just jumped you in the upvotes, Michael, but I'm going to stay on your question. Once the screen is built, can you save it back to the Figma? Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? I think that would be a leg up that Figma Make could eventually have that would allow you to do that. I think there are plugins in development right now, but I haven't seen anything that reliably takes it from Lovable back to Figma. And that brings up a point of education to me, which is once you've started designing something that is interactive in Lovable, I personally can't see a strong argument for moving back to static screens, because you can basically tell Lovable or any AI tool you're working on to change a color, change a border radius, change a background, change a drop shadow, etc., relatively reliably, rather than going back into like static designs and then back to Figma. And I know even when I was developing this talk, I looked into that and I wanted to do something along those lines, and it seemed counterintuitive to take a step back. So that's my take on it. So no is the overall answer currently that I'm aware of, but I'm sure if Figma's smart about it, that would be definitely a value add to their Make tool. And since they have access to all their code that makes a Figma file, makes sense, right? All right, CC, you mentioned using various API databases to pull into prototypes. What are some of the best ones, or can you send us some references? Yeah, I would just say, you can find a massive list, and I would search for one that was relevant. Could I send you some references? Sure. Would all those references be useful to you? Probably not. So with anything in design, context is everything. So I would probably just hop on Google or hop on ChatGPT and say, I'm designing this prototype that references X, Y, and Z. What are some APIs and databases that I can link into for dummy data, right? Like I did a very complex role management concept in Figma Make, and just by referencing who the client was and what their business was, it went out and found its own version of dummy data and filled it all in. And we're talking role management at a very granular level. And it gave me an entire role management interface with all sorts of unexpected but wonderful functionality that I was able to present to the client and kind of blew their mind. I had to get over how much it blew my mind at the outset before I could present it. But yeah, so I'd say with everything, context is king. So just search for what's relevant to the design you're working on. It's so easy to get lost when you get a big, long list of possibilities, right? It's the cereal aisle in the grocery store. All right, so can Lovable reference components in a Figma design system? I don't know. I haven't tried that. So, Michael, if you want to try that and get back to me, I'd love to hear the answers to that myself. All right, just here. So far, I found Lovable pretty good at starting from wireframes, not even any UI reference to start with. It gets less accurate when I try to convert a more complicated UI from Figma. Any advice on how to make it more accurate? Yeah, that's what the Builder plugin excels at, is if you use the Builder plugin and you format your design using auto layout as tightly as you possibly can, and then you use the precise mode in the Builder plugin, then it should get relatively close to what your intention is. So that's what I'd try if you're looking to get more pixel perfect than what it outputs. AI is still in its infancy, so it's still going to make mistakes, and you're still going to have to massage it. That said, it's still faster at prototyping than Figma will ever be. Well, I can't say will ever be, is in its current state, except for Make, which is pretty fast too. So that's the hard part about talking about AI, is it's evolving as I'm talking. So like literally something I said 5 minutes ago could be wrong. All right, can I please share the prompts later? Yeah, I can do that. That QR code goes to my website. There's a form on the website. There's just a simple contact form. Just fill it out, and when I see your email come through, I'll send you the prompts. Or if there's a way that Emily has a list of everybody, Emily Ann has a list of everybody who participated, I'll try and send it to that list. Trig, what was the name of the podcast? Dive.club. The other thing I referenced was Raycast.ai. Another thing you should look at for AI meeting recordings is Granola.ai, the best AI or meeting recorder there is. All right. Michael, yep, already answered that. How do you do an undo state? Can you say a certain part? I haven't tried that, Michael. I've just used the history to go back one step. But let's see if we can figure our way through that real quick. Let me check the time. Yeah, we got 10 minutes yet. So let's see if we can figure that out real quick. I love figuring stuff out on the fly. All right, so we're here. Let's close that. Get that. And I'd say here's your history. Right, so we're at this later remove icon. That didn't do anything. Oh, it did. See it? It actually removed the icon, so I just didn't wait long enough for it. So an example, Michael, I think participants have access to speak, or if in the chat, if you tell me what you'd like it to change, we'll give that a shot.
Yeah, folks can share stuff in the chat. They can't speak, but they can put any requests in there.
All right, cool. So Michael, if you want to tell me what you'd like to change in the interface we did, then that would give me a jumping off point, like what you'd like to stay the same. So the short answer to that question is I don't know, but I'm more than willing to explore that. All right. All right. Tom Gould, does Lovable.dev support speech to text for inserting prompts or any? Haven't tried it. So I don't see a microphone anywhere. So my initial answer for that would be no. What are the top tools besides Lovable you should explore? I'd hop into Figma Make. It's not a top tool yet, but man, they came out swinging at Config. So I think they're serious about their AI tools. So I'd hop in there. Cursor, if you want to do something more developer-centric. I think, was it OpenAI that recently bought Cursor, I want to say? I think Cursor was recently purchased by someone. Where do you get these plugins? I search for them. So basically the way I find a plugin I need is I go into ChatGPT and I say, I'm trying to do this in Figma. Is there a plugin? Otherwise, Builder You can access it from the plugin menu in Figma, in the Figma community. Raycast is its own website. I can't remember what other plugins I mentioned. Lovable is not a plugin; it's an app unto itself. So, and then Make is in a limited beta in Figma, so it might not have made it to your Figma account yet. So, when Figma does a better job with Make, should we learn Lovable? When does Figma Make launch? Okay, well, the beta launched at Config. I don't know what the final launch is, but I'd imagine not too far away. My take as an amateur, prognosticator when it comes to businesses is Figma launched a bunch of products because they want to IPO, and that makes them more attractive to investors. So I don't know exactly. Should you learn Lovable? Okay, few questions about should we learn X, Y, or Z. You should learn AI prompting. That's the core skill you should learn because there's going to be a million AI tools that involve prompting. And if you learn how to ask the right questions in the right form, then you're going to be well on your way with any AI tool. A good way to do that is, I don't know how many people know this, but anyone who has an active library card in the continental US has free access to LinkedIn Learning. All you have to do is have an active library card, and then you can go in and take courses on LinkedIn Learning for free using your library card. And that's where I took my first and only AI prompting class, was on LinkedIn Learning. So I highly recommend doing that. And you add stylistic prompts so it learns your design style. Wouldn't that be cool? I bet you can, and I just haven't tried it. Let's see. Could you use Lovable to build? So disclaimer, everyone. What I've used Lovable for so far is just getting buy-in from stakeholders very quickly. I'm not trying to build full-blown apps with it. I'm just trying to save time on the number of screens I have to create to get an idea across in Figma. So I'm just trying to move things faster, get things to developers quicker, to get things built quicker. I've not done full on integrating with design systems or anything to that nature yet, because a lot of organizations and a lot of the clients that I currently work with are still kind of on the fence about AI and giving it access to their data. And part of that data is their design system. So I'm sure that's down the road, and I'm sure I'm going to figure out how to do that down the road. But at this point, I haven't done it yet. How do we get consistent outputs? You get consistent outputs by really learning how to create very, very specific prompts, and then using those prompts, testing those prompts 3, 4, 5 times over and over again. And then that's how you know that prompt's going to work. I'm sure that'll get better in the future, but that's where we're at with AI right now. I am working on, and we'll be releasing a Notion template for tracking your AI research in a very succinct fashion, so that you have a list of prompts that you can refer to whenever you want to do a certain thing. I'll be releasing that probably next week. Mostly making it for myself, but I'm going to put it up on Gumroad for anyone who's interested. All right, James Williford. When you move from Figma, does Lovable know to componentize the components, or you need to tell Lovable that? Yeah, okay, so what's interesting about that is if you've got something that is an actual component that you have when you do the builder export, Lovable will recognize that as a component. Otherwise, it will create components loosely based on naming and frames. How much customization have you been able to do for more complex designs? Does it change your design if you keep asking it for changes? It can. And that's why, as you get into refining your design more and more and more, you kind of have to start building into change this element and don't change that element. And that's where a combination of the edit and the chat tools come in handy in Lovable, because you can edit a specific element, and then in the chat you can tell it don't change anything else, or you can see if it's planning on changing anything else. So that's how you can kind of continue to refine. These are great questions, everyone. Do you feel no-code tools are more successful for building responsive web experiences? How about native apps or new platforms like Watch or TV? I haven't tried it on Watch or TV. I don't consider AI to be a no-code tool, and no-code has become kind of a bad word in the industry because it implies kludge code and poorly written code. And so far, I haven't encountered anything in AI that's horrible code. That being said, I'm not a developer, but I'm not going to get hung up on no-code tools. I think knowing what you want and being able to communicate that to the AI tool you're using or the no code tool you're using is going to make it better at anything that you do. So yeah, I don't know that one tool is better than the other for creating responsive designs or responsive web experiences. I think that's more just knowing what you want and planning your project up front and then being able to tell it what to do. So what I would suggest, Leo, is I would go into Lovable and I would ask it to create interfaces for all of those devices that you're thinking about based on something really simple that you build, like do a contact form, right? And then say, make this contact form work on watches and televisions and all of this and see what it comes up with. All right. Can you export prototype? This is Kayla. Can you export prototype changes back to your Figma file, or do you have to do those manually? Yeah, there's no going back from Lovable that I'm aware of. And if I'm wrong on that, someone finds out I'm wrong, please let me know. Make versus Lovable. So far, as strengths and weaknesses, this is Christina Martinez from both. Make is stronger aesthetically, in my experience thus far. Lovable is stronger in being able to edit what I've done. And I haven't played with Make enough to trust it as much as I do Lovable. I see Emily Ann's back on, so we're down to 1 minute. So she's going to tell me to shut up.
I would never tell you to shut up, Mel.
But I think that's all the questions I can take for today, guys. Feel free to reach out to me either on LinkedIn or on my website with any questions I miss, and I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, folks, we are going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Mel, for this amazing presentation. I think, you could tell by the engagement, the questions, and the chat, it went over extremely well. Thank you so much to everyone who came for your insightful questions as we went through the presentation. As a reminder, we have this little code for y'all today, Event 100, to get $100 off any Design Lab course. And thank you so much for participating, everybody. We always love seeing you all at these events and, being able to present these things for you. Thank you so much again, Jamel. This was wonderful. I'm sure we'll see you in something else soon. And have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend, folks. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.